Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Burnt Pancakes podcast. I'm your host, Katie Fensky, a mom of three on a mission to remind moms that everyone burns their first pancake. I have on the perfect guest for our podcast today. Her name is Caroline Kalicki, and she is a mom of two little girls. She has a very unique experience to talk about of a time when she realized that self-love and caring for herself as a mom not only is important for her, but for her daughters. So she's going to share that story and also share how her experience with motherhood has led her to become a life coach for moms. So she is part of Mother Hen Coaching, and I had so much fun picking her brain and just sharing our common experiences about motherhood and postpartum care. So please sit back and enjoy my conversation, my momversation with Caroline. Caroline, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited about this topic because this is something that I've wanted to bring up for a while, but I just didn't know how to talk. I'm not an expert in this. I don't know
And
how to
that's
talk
okay.
about this stuff. So why don't you start off by introducing yourself? Let us know where you are, how many kids you have, all of that.
Yes. So my name is Caroline, and I am in Colorado, just outside of Denver. And I became a mom in 2020. I have two daughters. My oldest, Riley, will be 4 years old this coming Sunday. She will not
Happy
let you forget it. Thank you. And then my youngest, Noah Carlene, she is 9 months old.
Oh my goodness. You are in the trenches right now.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. And then you had your first right during the pandemic, right? Like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. So
Like the
becoming
world shut down. Yeah, we
yeah.
just had gotten pregnant and like the world shut down like a few days later. So we just made that like cut off because we went through IVF. So
Oh my
yes.
gosh. Oh my God. Because I had my last in December of 19. So I had like a
Okay.
couple months of normal before it
Right.
all came crashing down. But oh my gosh. Okay. I want to know a little bit about your like journey to becoming a mom. You said you did IVF and you kind of like talked about that a little bit on social media, but also how was the pandemic thrown in there? Like what was that like for you?
It's been a whirlwind.
You
So yeah, our journey to becoming pregnant alone was, a 5, 6 years stint
Oh
of
wow.
just trying everything we could. We went through IUIs first for both of us, my wife and me included, and it was just month after month, no, 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 and we
Um,
wanted it so badly. Everyone around us was getting pregnant. It was like you drank the water and they were getting pregnant,
right.
right? We were
Right.
not.
Yeah.
So, come to doing, we finally resorted to IVF, and we wanted to do like the less medically necessary route first, kind of deal.
Mhm.
So we did it IVF, and then we got pregnant with our first right after the world shut down, or right before the world shut down, basically. And we had prepared so long for pregnancy, so I think we were okay to quit that, even though the world shut down. It's the learning after the fact. It's the postpartum, which was really difficult when the world was shut down, and just like seeing her, how different her attitudes and mannerisms and stuff like that and socialization is different than our youngest right now because the world is open
Mhm.
now.
Yep.
So that has been a huge shift, just seeing how she's not as comfortable in front of crowds and big groups of people because she didn't have that when she was younger. Whereas my youngest, you can throw her in a crowd, she'll look back and make sure I'm there every once in a while, but
Right.
she could care less where I'm next to her. Whereas my
That's
first is
so
very, very
interesting.
close.
I
Yeah.
am very curious to see if anyone does studies on that age group because like you do hear a lot about not only anxiety levels of kids this age, but like the
Right.
high school, the kids who are going through like junior high school during the pandemic, I've heard anxiety is like through the roof. So
Yeah.
you wonder like how that has affected them. Because like my oldest was able, we went to classes, we did all these things. And
Right.
luckily for my third, he went through the pandemic with siblings around. Had it just been
That
like
was nice.
just me and him, I wonder how that would have affected it. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely made the best of it. And I feel like we're really close because of that. But I
Yeah.
feel like there are some moments where I'm like, oh, is that why she's like this today? Or, so you
Yeah.
wonder. And I don't know if anybody's ever done official studies, but
I
I'd be
think I'm sure
interested
that's
to see.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yes.
also like she is a firstborn. I know a couple of friends who have firstborns who are very much like that, where it's like I
True.
stick to mom. And my oldest is not like he is the opposite of a firstborn. Like
Okay.
complete opposite. I don't know how he turned out the way he did. But I remember looking at my friends thinking, I wish mine was like that, where they like wouldn't leave my side. And because mine will just like take off at a park and just go running. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh my God, you're 1.5. You have to come back here. But they were like, no, it's really hard because I can't send them off and do
it
things.
is.
Such a
I think it has
challenge.
some pros and cons kind of deal to
Hmm.
it, but
Yep. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your story of how your daughter, she made a comment that was kind of like, aha, light bulb, self-care, self-love, body image came about. Cause like when you shared
yes.
that story with me, I'm like, oh my God, I need to talk about this on the podcast. So share a little bit about that.
For sure. So it's kind of like one of my biggest burnt pancake kind of moments in motherhood right now, navigating being a mom of two girls.
Hmm.
And so we were getting ready to go out to a family gathering. I was about 3 months postpartum with my youngest. So I was in that weird stage where
Uh,
like maternity clothes are kind of too big, but your regular clothes are still kind of small. So you just kind of are still getting back to feeling like yourself, right?
yeah.
Without
That
baby while
frumpy
taking
stage.
care. Yes, thank you. The frumpy stage. Love that. And so I was getting dressed and I hadn't seen these family members for a while. So there was a little extra pressure on that. My dad was in town. Like it was just a big thing. So I had tried on, I don't know how many outfits, bought some new outfits too, and thought
Hmm.
that was the answer. And we were in a hotel room. So we're close proximity, right? And I was not aware of what I was saying to myself in the mirror. But somehow that clicked with my daughter. She heard me talk about my body in a negative way. And I'm sure what I said was not kind to myself. I think sometimes we can be our own worst critics.
Yep.
And we were getting ready to leave, and my daughter looked at us and said, Mommy, I don't feel good in this. I need to go change. And I was just like, oh, my heart. Like, you really are listening to me,
Yes.
and you
How
really
old
are
was she
watching me.
at that time? How old was she?
So she was 3. So
Okay.
3 and a few months. Yeah. And it was just like this aha light bulb moment where I was like, whoa, what I say, even if it's just about my body, has a huge impact on her.
And it was nothing like you said directed to her either. Because I look back
No.
too and I think ever since I can remember, I always thought I was bigger and like as a first grader probably said I was fat when I was
Right.
not. And I'm like, my mom never said anything to me. But looking back, I'm like, I wonder if maybe I just subconsciously picked up what others had been saying, not necessarily to me, but just what was being said.
Yes. And I think our kids do that. I think we did as well, too. My parents never said, my mom never said anything negative about my body per se, but I did realize and hear her say that a few times about herself, and I think we do pick up on that as kids, but we don't give kids enough credit that they can pick up on that. We're like, oh, they're
Mhm.
too young. They won't remember that. They'll
Oh,
forget
totally.
that. But I think subconsciously they do. They kind of carry that with
Yeah.
them. And I've carried that with them. Like you said, mentioned, I've
Mhm.
had body image, issues kind of fluctuate throughout being a woman and then becoming a mom when your body shifts from what you once knew it to be.
So much.
And
Yes.
right,
Like having kids has like, whoa, changed it. Like I used to think in
right,
my 20s, I was like, I need to get in shape. I'm like, gosh, could I have that body back? Like if I had
right,
known that this body's going to carry 3 babies and totally transform,
right.
she would have appreciated it a little bit more.
Exactly. And I think too, society does us negative, does us a service with us because they put so much pressures on us having to bounce back after being
Mhm.
pregnant and be back who you once were. And that's physiologically never going to happen. You're always going to be different.
Yeah.
So I was already struggling with that. And I struggled with that a lot with my first, anyways, with when I was newly postpartum with my first, where I just was struggling to kind of find my body and who I was again.
Mm-hmm.
that I was kind of shocked that it happened again in postpartum, but you're vulnerable in that
Oh,
time
totally.
period too, early
Yep.
postpartum, that I was just kind of like, wow, what I am saying though matters around my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you done to like have you healed that? Are you like what are you doing like consciously now? Because it is hard to stop yourself from saying and thinking things. And like even though I have boys, I've still noticed too, I have to be aware of how I'm talking in front of them. Not only how they think of themselves, but like how they're going to think of other women when they get older.
Right.
So how have
I
you dealt with that?
So it's an ongoing work in progress. I'm never going to say I'm going to be perfect at it per se.
Mhm. Or
I think
healed in
it's
any way.
right. I'll magically just figured it all out. But
Mhm.
there are some things that I have started to do of just practicing gratitude with my body and what it can do rather than what it looks like. So
Mm,
we talk about that a lot of like, look, I'm able to get down on the floor and play with you all. I'm able to run after you in the park, things like that versus saying, oh, I'm size, 8
right.
again, or I'm, this many pounds. It's so like getting rid of the numbers per se and
Mhm.
focusing more on how you feel and just practicing that gratitude. And then really working on challenging that negative self-talk,
Oh my God.
which
Yes.
that could be an episode on itself, right?
Right. That inner dialogue.
And it's tough. I mean, they say that we have anywhere between 12,000, 6,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative.
Oh my God. But yeah, I believe that. I
Yeah.
believe that.
We're
Wow.
just so hard on ourselves, especially when it comes to our bodies, especially as women, I think.
Yeah.
And so just focusing on just shifting that negative self-talk to if I catch myself going down that route of saying, okay, I feel so fat or something like that, like I don't feel my best today. I'm going to do this to feel better.
Hmm.
Whether that means take a walk with the girls outside or spend some time, doing some breath work or yoga or something that I enjoy doing, just to kind of flip that script and not be so hard and negative on myself.
Hmm.
And then I think it's really about just creating rituals to make me feel good about my body, things that I love to do. So if you don't like working out in the gym, and I don't know who likes to like work out for hours on end, I don't. Um, but doing stuff that you love that brings you joy, so just like doing yoga or like going on a walk with the girls. I feel better going for a walk around the block than I would going to the gym,
Yeah.
right?
Putting on that
And just
workout that you're like, ugh, I have to do this. Yep.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And then reaching out, like I am a big fan of community, especially as becoming a mom. And we're always taught when it takes a village to raise a child. And when you become that mom, you're almost like, where's that village? Like, where do you find them?
Hmm.
But seek them out. Like find support, find a good girlfriend that was like, just can cheer you up and like give you that sense of encouragement so that even if you don't believe it in the moment, you're able to kind of walk away from that conversation and be like, okay, I'm being a little hard on myself right now. This is not really my reality, because our thoughts do become our beliefs become
Hmm.
our reality, and our reality becomes our habits.
Yep. So true. So true. So you talk a little bit about community. How were you able to find like mom friends and mom groups? Was that hard for you or were they
With
there?
my first, yeah, with my first, it was really hard
Oh gosh,
because of
yeah,
the
there was
pandemic, because
no one was allowed to hang out.
no, I was a mom by myself. I mean, yes, my wife was in the same
Mhm.
boat as me, but still different, right? And I had some good girlfriends, but they weren't local. And it was really challenging. Where the second time around, I feel like I've attracted some of these groups. I found them
Mhm.
a lot easier. There are great Mom Walk Collective is a great group
Yeah. Okay,
it's
so
statewide. That's a great organization.
one opened up in our area, but I didn't find out about it until my third was, I think three or four.
Okay,
So then I kind of felt like the older mom. Everyone had like babies that stayed in the stroller, and I had like a
true.
3-year-old that was like, I'm not sitting in the stroller anymore. So I
I
was
get
thinking
that.
like, oh, I wish this had been around when I had my first, because I would have been all about that. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great organization.
A great organization. You can
Mhm.
find it online, Mom Walk Collective, and it's just a group of moms that gets together and walks, and you can
Mhm.
kind of share and vent to the moms that are there. Everyone kind of gets it, and it's just that sense of community. I've had some really good conversations too, but just I'll show up sometimes and just like, I just don't feel good in my body. And we'll go for a walk, we talk, and I feel way better. So,
Yeah.
and
Is
my
yours a
oldest,
pretty big group too?
well, there's a few out here in Colorado. So there's a few that I kind of hop back and forth, but
Okay.
they're growing. I think they're gaining more popularity.
I was shocked the first
Pretty-
time I showed up. I'm like, we are all gonna go to that coffee shop. We're gonna like take over that coffee
yeah.
shop. But it's so awesome seeing like a whole horde of moms with strollers like walking down the street.
It is. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, people always stop me and be like, what's going on? Like, especially the bigger events
Yeah.
in Denver proper, those can be like hundreds of people and people are like, what's happening with all these strollers? Like, but my oldest loves, and she doesn't sit in the stroller now either anymore, but she brings her own stroller to the
Oh,
park. So she'll
how
push her
cute.
babies as I push her sister. So
How cute.
make it
Oh
work.
my gosh. That's awesome. So what are some things that you are purposely saying? Because like there is that new thought that you're like, don't tell your children you're smart. Have you heard that before? Like, don't say you're smart. You're this like, or like with girls, like don't always talk about their looks, talk about their like, wow, you're a great problem solver. Is there anything like you're consciously making sure to say or not say with your kids?
So I really avoid the self-criticism language like ugly or flawed or hate. I really take those kind of words out of my vocabulary. So I don't say, oh, I hate my body today, because I feel like then that just inflicts on her and she'll feel that way too. We do practice affirmations though. So like, I am strong, I am brave, I can do hard things, I am
Mm,
capable. I think those are important to do because you're still instilling those ideas into them to help them grow and believe that about themselves and have that different thought pattern instead of the negative self-talk. It's the positive self-talk. So I think there's still some value to that. And it's funny you brought up the word beautiful, and like we're not supposed to tell them our kids are pretty and they're beautiful. And asked her the other day, I said, Riley, I said, do you know what the word beautiful means? And she looked at me and she said, she's like, no, no, mommy, what does it mean? I said, well, it means something to different people. I mean, it could be you're beautiful because of how kind you are to
yeah.
others. And we're focused on kind because we're learning how to be a big sister right now.
Yeah.
So
And this is an
that's an ongoing
ongoing
journey.
work in progress for my
Okay.
boys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured it wasn't going to happen in the first year her sister was
The
here.
sharing thing. Yeah, we're still working on that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Sharing space, sharing time, sharing
Sharing
mommy,
mom.
everything.
Yep.
Yes. So I want to instill in her that beauty is really the eye of the beholder too. I always love that saying, but really it's about the inside, not our outside, and kind of the qualities that we have as individuals and people and our actions versus how we look. And it's funny because then she will come up to me and she's like, "Oh, mommy, you're so beautiful." I said, "Why did you say that?" She said, "Oh, because you made me lunch."
Oh,
Okay, sure.
all it
Like,
takes. Oh man.
yeah, yeah, like you never know. So it's just important to instill those positive words with them. So, and then they can focus on those non-physical traits too, like kindness, so that they aren't attaching their worth to how they look or their appearance. They're
Mhm.
attaching it to who they are as a person.
Yeah, I love that. Um, what would you say are some of your burnt pancake moments in motherhood? Have you
Ooh,
had
okay.
any? Well, I'm sure we've all had them, but
Well,
any that
yes.
you
I
want to
mean,
share?
just the one of me saying, whatever I said to myself in the mirror that one day.
Hmm.
I have a lot as we are navigating uh, this new age of emotions and learning what our emotions are. I think a lot of my burnt pancake moments are just reacting fast
Yeah.
and just being triggered by things that just drive me crazy, like the growling when we are upset. Like we are not animals. That is not a form of communication, right? I think that's a trigger, but then switching in, I don't know if you've heard this word glimmers before.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and focusing on those little small moments of joy versus the triggers that are just kind of make us spiral.
Hmm.
So I'm just trying to practice with those burnt pancake moments of where I react too fast of like, okay, take a calm breath. What's the glimmer in this situation? Maybe
Yeah.
it's not this big emotional tantrum that she's having right now, but the fact that, she's at that age where she's learning and she's learning how to name her emotions and such like that. So,
I'm impressed by that because I think because I mean, I worked in school, I was a teacher, but I
right.
didn't have kids like just blow up temper tantrums. So when my kids started
Mhm.
having those, I was like, what is going on? I didn't know how to like react to their big emotions. And that was
Right.
like the trigger for me. And it was just instantly like gone.
Right. Well, you
So,
always think too, like, oh, when they're my kids, I'm gonna teach them differently. They're not gonna have tantrums. I'm
mhm.
not gonna let them get to that point. Hate to break it to you, it happens to everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And
There's no way to
they
avoid
have
it.
those big emotions with you because this is like their safe space.
Right.
But oh
Right.
boy. And also having all boys, I thought like, oh, they're not going to be as emotional as girls. Oh my goodness. Like
Still have their moments, right?
my 4-year-old, yeah, he loves to like run off crying, slam the door.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
lot.
good.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good knowing that I'm not alone. Like
Oh
my
no.
daughter is going through, everyone kind of goes through this at this age.
Yes.
So,
Yes. That big stuff. Okay,
yes.
so you have since become a coach, the mother hen coaching.
Yes.
Tell me, because I bet, 5 years ago that was not on your radar. You didn't think like, I think I'm going to go into this. How did that happen? And like, what was your journey to becoming a coach like?
That's a great question. So, no, before the pandemic, before having babies, I was in the corporate wellness space where I would go into big organizations and I would do like lunch and learns about stress and sleep. So I was educating like in the masses,
Okay.
which was really cool. And I always loved speaking and public speaking and being able to help people like empower them to feel like they could be more proactive versus reactive with their health. And I'd been in the health and wellness space for a while, but it was kind of like I was missing something because I felt like I couldn't see it through. I never got to see their aha moments. I never got to see them actually make these changes, right? So, flash forward to like the pandemic, I was, had just left a job and I was doing sales for a while for an organization that was teaching people to become coaches. And I was like, oh, this is really cool now that I'm in the kind of coaching space, but I'm helping other women and men become coaches, which is cool. But I'm like, wait a minute, I want to do that. Like,
Oh,
that sounds like a
cool.
pretty good gig just to be that support and accountability person for somebody. And
Was
so the
it coach
pandemic,
like all types of coaching? Like,
yes, all
okay.
types of coaching.
Okay.
Yeah. Mainly health and wellness though,
Okay.
or in life coaching really. And so during the pandemic, I landed a gig right as we got pregnant with my oldest, into coaching. It was more weight loss coaching at first. I was like, okay, this is okay. And then shift forward a few years, we overhired and they had to let people go. And so they had a reduction in force. And so I got laid off. And it was kind of like this sign like, okay, I think I'm meant to do this
Yes.
on my own.
Mm.
And I had such an aha moment in postpartum with my first, where I just felt like everyone gives you so much support during pregnancy. And we knew we had waited so long to be pregnant that I was prepared. We knew the ins and outs of
Oh,
pregnancy. We had the time for
yeah.
birth. Like we felt like we were prepared, but nobody
Mhm.
told me about postpartum. Like
Yeah.
I
No.
was postpartum, it just slapped me like a ton
Yep.
of bricks.
I feel the exact same way. I
Okay,
felt
good.
I'm like a planner. I
Yeah,
read the
same.
books. I knew exactly like,
Same.
well, ended up having a C-section because my son was breech. So didn't really prepare for that. But it's like,
Right?
we read the books. We are prepared. And then like he came home and my world was just like rocked. Like, I
Yes.
don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Nobody talks about it. And then
Mm-mm.
you typically have this 1 6-week check and you're cleared for certain things. And then you're supposed to be all magically
Back to
fine to
normal.
go back to normal, bounce back and
Yeah.
get back into life as it is. And it's just like
And
there
how
was
many
no
of us
support.
pretend that like, because at the time, I think I went back for, I think I had an appointment like pretty early on and then my 3-month appointment. I don't know, for C-section, it must have been different. But my dad had just passed away that same week. And I went in for my appointment and I remember just being there and she's like, how is everything? And I'm like, I'm fine. Like, I was a wreck, but I was just like,
Right.
I'm good. I'm okay. And she just like, okay, you're clear to go back to work and everything's fine. But I was not okay. Like I should have told her like
Right.
I'm a wreck. Like I cannot go back to work. I can't do this. But it was just like just keep moving forward. I don't this is what I'm supposed to do.
Because it's the pressures of society that we're
Mhm.
supposed to have it all figured out. We waited
Yep.
this long to be a mom, or we wanted it so bad to become a mom. Why don't
Mhm.
you have us figured out?
Yep.
Why are you struggling? Get it together kind of
And then you
deal.
feel guilty because you're like, but I
Yes.
wanted this so bad. I asked for this, but yet this
Right.
is really hard. Like I did have a moment. We got home from the hospital and I remember thinking, I wish I could just put him back in my stomach and just
It's easy then.
be back.
You,
He was so much easier when he was
yeah.
inside.
Well, you
He
knew what
slept
to
much
do.
better.
Right.
Yes.
That's a whole other can of worms, right?
Yes.
And it just,
Yeah.
nobody talks about this, and no one talks about some of those moments like teething and sleep and like how you're supposed to still take care of you. And all attention went
Mhm.
focused on baby. That's where I felt like I was in a fog for those first 9 months
Yep.
postpartum, where finally I like snapped out of it right around that 9 month mark. And I was like, okay, I gotta do something for me. Like I cannot keep giving to her, my daughter, expecting, to not take care of myself at the same time. I
Yeah.
wasn't eating enough food. To be able to keep up with breastfeeding, it was like that was like a big chore. No one told me. Like
Mhm.
I just felt so disconnected too from who I once was.
Yes.
And that shift, whereas this time around, I'm at that time 9 month mark with my second, and night and day different.
Totally different.
Night and day different.
Yeah.
But I think it also has to do with support. And that's why I picked to, be a postpartum and motherhood coach, because I could focus in on this one area of motherhood that doesn't get a lot of attention, doesn't get a lot of support. It's just like, figure it out. You're on
And
your
it
own.
feels
You're
very
a mom now.
lonely. I like
It does.
you don't have support, even though there are people willing to help you. You just don't know how to
Yes.
ask. You don't know how to recognize that you need that. And I just felt so lonely during those months.
Yeah. And you're not alone. I mean, most of us feel that sense of being alone in those first early months, even if we do have a supportive partner and
Hmm.
supportive family.
And
And that really
friends.
wasn't the
Yeah.
case, right?
Yeah.
Right. It was just like you said, you don't know how to ask for help, or you felt guilty by doing
Hmm.
so. You felt
Yeah.
guilty for taking time for yourself.
Like I'm a
I felt
failure if
guilty.
I can't keep this all together, if I can't
Right.
make it all work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my idea and my focus has turned to supporting more moms, so that we
Love
can
that.
help people feel not so alone, and they can, what I like to say, thrive in this beautiful chaos of motherhood.
Oh, I love that. That's the perfect
Yeah.
catchphrase.
Isn't it?
So what does coaching look like? Because I don't think that was an option. So my oldest is 10.
Okay.
I don't remember hearing about coaching and motherhood postpartum care when he was born. I don't even think I was, no, I was on Instagram at the time, but
Okay.
I feel like now it's much more prevalent. What does that
Yes.
look like? Like if someone was like, man, I think I could use that. What is it like?
So what I do is a lot of virtual coaching. So it's one less place for a mom to have to pick up her babies and go to an appointment,
Mhm.
right? Make it
Brilliant.
easy, make it easy.
Yeah.
And then we focus on the mom and what her goals are, whether it's, regaining that sense of self, if it's rediscovering her confidence, if it's managing the stress, finding the balance in motherhood, and just focusing on her. We usually meet weekly, and we allow the safe space to collaborate to help her move forward. Whereas therapy is great with kind of digging up the past and why is this happening and all this, coaching is more forward facing and more forward path. So you're focusing on, setting goals, or what I like to call experiments,
I like that.
um, and seeing how you can kind of be more proactive versus reactive in what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, I love that you brought up goals. You name them experiments. Because sometimes goal
Yes,
setting is like, okay, goal setting, like another thing I
exactly.
have to do. Like experiment, like let me see if I can focus on drinking more water today. Like
Yes.
little like challenges. Like,
Little
yeah.
challenges. I think it kind of gamifies it a little bit. And like you said, goals are just so inundated. We hear that all the time. We have at the beginning of the
Mhm.
year, right? We'll set goals for the year.
Mhm.
How many of us ever stick with them,
Right.
right?
And how many of us go like, I'm okay, should I make that goal? Because I know I'm not going to do it.
Right, right. So I kind of switch the verbiage into experiments, because it's testing out what works or what doesn't
I
work
like
for you.
that.
And knowing that you're a work in progress, there's no kind of right or wrong way to do this, especially in motherhood. there's no like perfect way to be a mom, or there's no perfect way to
Mhm.
handle this situation. It's just figuring out what works best for you and helping them feel like they can follow their mother's intuition too with that as well.
Mm. That's so burnt pancakes, right? There's
Yes.
no perfect way of doing it. Even though I thought there was a perfect
Yes.
way to do it, I am
We
learning,
all do.
there are other ways. Do you, with your coaching, ever do like you said you do one-on-ones, but do you have like collaborations or like mom groups? Because I felt like that was hard for me to find. It was hard for me to find my village, to find my connection with other moms. Do you offer that also?
I don't at this moment, but that is something kind of in the works. I do have challenges from time to time, like we're in the thick of a 30-day gratitude challenge
Oh,
where I do
fun.
have a lot of clients and moms kind of joining in to practice gratitude towards ourself and really celebrating those small wins in motherhood as well right now. So I have those for right now, but that's something I definitely want to add in because, like you said, I don't think we can ever have too much community in
Yeah,
motherhood.
true. We'll add that to your plate with your 4-year-old and your 9-month-old.
Yes. Yes.
That's the same with me. It's like I have visions of all these things I want to do. And I'm like, okay, baby steps.
Yes.
I'm gonna do one
Yes.
thing at a time. Okay, I love all of this. Could you tell us, so Mother Hen Coaching, can you tell us how we find you and where we can connect with you?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Mother Hen Coaching. You can also find me on Facebook, but I'm usually on Instagram a lot more. And
Same,
then
same.
you can also connect with me there, stay in touch, as well as my website, which is just www.motherhencoaching.com. Pretty easy to find me there.
Love it. I love the name. That's so cute. Did you come up with that?
Yes. I did. So mother hens are really good at protecting and nurturing their young, that sometimes it comes at the expense of their own health. It's
Mm.
actually a legit mother hen syndrome is what it's called. And
Wow.
so that's why I was like, when I heard that, I was just like, this is it. Like, this
Oh,
is just, I feel this to my core.
mhm.
And I want to help other mother hens take care of themselves.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That is so perfect. That is so cute.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. You were a delight to chat with, and I think you are doing a wonderful thing for moms out there.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Big special thank you to Caroline for coming on to this podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed my chat with her. Again, it just brings me back to those postpartum days and what it was really like being a mom in those early days of motherhood. And big shout out to her for going out and starting her coaching business because, gosh, I needed that. And I really hope someone who's listening right now might connect to that. If you are loving this podcast, please share it with your friends. Go leave me a 5-star review or come connect with me on social media because I love growing this community and being a part of your motherhood journey as well. So until next week's Momversation, I want to remind you that everyone burns their first pancake, so just keep flipping.